Greetings everyone, Eric here, and welcome back to another video about Pixel Game Maker MV. In this video, we're going to be doing a lot of the graphical-based stuff. So we're going to be importing our resources, we're going to be setting up our tile sets, and we're going to be dabbling in the character animations a little bit. So let's get to it. Okay, so I've got here a little folder called my Zelda-like tutorial. And this has a bunch of graphics, like a bunch of different things, all for different reasons. So this is what I'm going to be using for a lot of this. Now, some of this stuff is a bit ahead, like some of these things and these things and these things and all sorts of things. For right now, we're just going to focus on a few key things. For starters, we're going to be importing some of these images into the program. And I'm going to be showing you why I have these weird looking things here. And then, yeah, we're going to be also adding the resources for my little guy here, my little player, and all that kind of fun stuff. So let's get the game engine open. Pixel Game Maker MV. Hopefully this video will not be quite as long as the last one. All right, let's open up Totally Not Zelda. Because it's totally not a Zelda game. All right, so in the first episode, I already went over a lot of the UI elements, but I'll also go over some of the UI elements kind of as they become pertinent. So yeah, the first thing we're just going to jump right into is we're going to go over here. You see this little resource tab. You can also go over to tools and click resources, but it's just as easy just to go clip. All right. As I said in my first video, resources is just all the different things you're going to be using to make your game, like images, fonts, text, videos, background music, sound effects, voices, the variables and switches, which honestly switches are just Boolean variables, and then animation onlys. These are all cool stuff, and we'll get to hopefully all of them at some point. But right now, we're already in images, which is where we want to be. So you have your image list here. This list is where it's basically going to give you the name of all the things that you're going to be importing. This gives you some of your source information, so like where the file comes from. You can update and open them. Partitioning, which I'll talk about in a second. You have this thing over here, which shows you an image of what it is, like so you can see what it is and edit it from here. Or not edit it, but you can see what you're doing. And then right here, I believe this is just telling you how many things are currently making reference to your resource, which is very, very handy. So as you can see, we have all the fonts here, which are really nice, but we're going to do something pretty fun here. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click a blank spot and we're going to add a folder. You can follow along with this. And we're going to call this folder tiles. Making folders is important because it keeps you organized. We're going to make another folder. We're going to call this, for now, we're just going to call this Sprites. Just so you know, like sprites are usually based on character kind of things. So either the main character or enemies and stuff. So that's going to be for sprites. All right, we're going to go into tiles. We're going to right click that. And right here, we're going to click add image. You can also delete and change the name of things from here. If you want to change the name, you can also just hover over the name itself, click once, or highlight it, and then click once. And then you can change the name. But yeah, we're going to go like that. We're going to hit add image. It's already got me to my Zelda-like tutorial thing because I've gotten stuff from this before. All right, I'm going to, by the way, all this stuff for each tutorial will be provided. So that way you can follow along if you would like, or you can go find your own stuff. That's perfectly fine too. You can go to opengameassets.com or .org. I don't remember which, just Google it. And you can get a bunch of free ones. Just look for Creative Commons 0 or CC 0. Those are the royalty-free ones. Okay. So I'm gonna grab this one, and I don't think I'm gonna grab the other ones just yet, because those will come later. So we're just gonna add this one for now. So this is the one I'll provide. So now you can see a preview of the tile set that I've uploaded, and a tile set is literally just an image that holds all of like the graphics you're going to be using for things like the ground, for walls, for buildings. As you can see here, I have windows, ladders, and doors. The only reason I have a door here is because I didn't really have it animating, but you could have it animate here if you wanted to. You can see I have stairs here. I have angle pieces. So these are supposed to be for like slopes and stuff. And then I have different colored things. So I have all this cool stuff. So we're going to do, here's what the partitioning does. What partitioning does is right now it's 1, 1, which means it's just the whole image. You have horizontal and vertical. This allows you to segment your tile set into pieces, and it'll do it evenly based on your vertical and horizontal. So here I can see I'm using 16 by 16 square tiles. So each one's a square. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So horizontal, I want to break 7 times. You can see it evenly cuts them into the 7 segments. Now I want to cut them this way. I always forget how tall this thing is, and I don't know why I have it so long. But one of the quick ways, if you don't want to sit here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, you can just do this, and just watch the blue line and go boop, 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 boop. All right, that's lined up perfectly. So it's 13. So I have 13. So this thing is 7 tiles by 13 tiles. So there we go. That's all you need to do for that. We're also going to right click on, on Sprite. We're going to hit add image. You can also do this in bulk if you want, like, if you just right click add image and you say click this, and then let's say I click this and this, which, sorry, I hit the mic. And then you hit open, it'll open all of them. And then you can just drag, and if it's highlighted red highlights where it's going. So there, I'm doing it in the main root folder, but then here I'm doing it in the Sprite. So I'm gonna send that in there. Ignore these two, we'll get back to them later. In fact, I don't want to get ahead of myself, so I'm gonna delete these. It'll always ask if you're sure you want to delete them. So this is the player. This has his walking animations as well as the idle. The idle is just going to be these middle pieces. It also has a weapon here, which we'll get to eventually. So I know vertically it's just 2 because it's just 2 rows. And then columns, as you can see, it's 3, 6, 7, 8. And there we go. So 8 by 2. Cool. Always make sure you save, just in case your program decides to crash, which always sucks. All right, so now what we're going to do, we don't need to really do anything else in this area. We're going to bounce over, we're going to set up our tiles first. So we're going to go over here to tiles, like that. As you can see, the list is blank because we need to add some. Over here is your list of images or tiles that you're going to be making. And then over here, you're going to be able to see all your settings and a preview of things. So we're going to right click here. Also, if you don't want to right click, you can also just come down here. You can add a folder, add a file, or add a tile, and delete said tile. And then this just allows you to get the settings of whichever one you have selected. So I'm going to do it here. You can also import tiles. I believe that allows you to import from, because you can also export. So you can export a lot of the things you do here. You can export them as specific files that this engine can read, and then you can re-import them into other projects. So we're just going to do here. So here's all our settings. We're going to have a name. We're going to just call this Blue Dungeon. Actually, let's call it Purple Dungeon, and you'll see why in a bit. What type of tile it is. So this is the standard tile. As you can see here, it gives you a little description. This is just your wall and your floors, and it's like easy to do a bunch of like the basic stuff and a lot of your basic stuff. You have gimmick. We'll click there. So in addition to the normal functions, add settings to play sound effects, show objects, or change and switches of variables, which is really nice if you want to do things like things you step on. Like if you walk past a certain thing, you can switch a variable. And then auto tiles we'll get into in a little bit. We might get to that in this video. We'll see. For now, standard. Right here, you're going to select your image. So we're going to go to tiles, the Blue Dungeon tile set. Actually, yeah, since I am calling this Blue Dungeon, let's just keep the naming consistent. Notes just allows you to add some notes so you can like leave notes of like what you're using this for. And then right here, as you can see, you got a preview. And right here, we hit OK. As you can see, it keeps all of the segments that I made. And as you can see, as I click on each one, like if I just click on any one of them, you'll notice that there's nothing here until I click on something. You can also click on multiple. So if you want to edit a bunch at once, you can just click on multiple and edit here. But let's go over some of the settings you have. So here in our basics, we have the name, which you can mess with here, I believe. Wall detection just allows you to choose from what side this block is collidable. So when something bumps into it, when does it register it being bumped into? So for like these top 3, I want all the walls. You can either click each of these, or you can just click all and no walls. And then the tile group, you can set what group it's in. We're just going to keep it in default for now. We're not going to get anything fancy. You can set up some simple effects. So you can have an activation condition, which is just saying when something bumps it, it'll activate, or when something overlaps it. You can say the group that can activate it. So right now, player and enemy could activate any of these. And then these are all the things that it can do. So if you want to assign area detection numbers, you can increase or decrease movement speed. You can increase, decrease the jump force. You can move an object in the X or Y axis. You can make an object slide. You can destroy an object, or you can increase and decrease its health. So you can make a block hurt. And then, yeah, here you can do increase, decrease gravity, which is really nice. You can do some like color changing. So you can add some like, you can like change this block and this block's color a little bit. So you can add some like kind of color adjustments, which is pretty interesting. And then you have these, you have your physics calculation. Don't worry about that. And then you have notes. So you can add some notes. So yeah, these ones are set. I don't know why I have so many of these. I don't know why I did them. I know these are all going to be selectable. These are all going to be one way. You're not going to be able to collide into these. And then we have these ones. And if you hold control and keep clicking and dragging, you can select a bunch at one time, which is very nice. So I'm going to make those all collidable. Oh, I should have made those collidable as well. Those are just those. Those are just there for visuals. And then, yeah, these should all be collidable as well. I'll explain what these are in a moment. These should not be collidable. These are the floor. I'm going to make that collidable as well. Actually, and I'm not making these collidable because they're angles and they're going to be slopes. So I want them to be treated as slopes, and we'll get into that later. And then, of course, the steps, I'm not going to do either. These are spare visual tiles. So these are just like extra visual things to put on the floor to add some, to make it so that, because right now it's just going to be all purple. So this will just allow me to do it in different ways. Okay, and then, of course, the door does not need it either. Okay, so we basically set up all of these. And so that is done. Also, you can do animations and stuff. Animations is just saying, okay, you'll have this, and then you can click another one, and then like this will be this will be this. So if you have like water movement, you can just have the water movement control here, and you just click on the different things that you want. And then, of course, gimmick settings you can't even get into right now, but it does like extra stuff. So that's our tiles. That's the tile set we're going to be using. Now, let's take care of the player real quick, because I want to show you how the animation thing works. Again, all blank because we don't have any animations. Let's click here, add animation. We're just going to name this player movement. Right now it's going to be a motion. You can also do effects animation and particle animation, which are mostly self-explanatory. Effects is like if you want a special effect, like an explosion or something. And particles is if you want like blood splatter or like sparks coming off of something, you know, those little particle effects. And then of course you can add notes. Over here, we'll register the resource that it's going to be using. So we're going to down to sprites, little guy. There's our little guy right there. You can also do the partitioning over here as well if you want, which is pretty cool. And okay, and there you can see that. You can have one animation have a bunch of images that it can call from, which is really nice. But for now, we just need the little guy. So we're going to click that. And now you have the image, the animation editor, which is really nice. So you'll see 3 tabs here. Motion is what the motion is going to be called. So in this case, this first one's just going to be idle. Idle just means he's standing still. Then you have what direction that is facing. So this first direction, we're just going to say is down. And then over here, you pick which direction it's facing. So this one faces down. And that's important because this controls, let's say I hit the left arrow key for movement. It'll automatically change which direction he's moving, and then it'll look at this as reference for which direction it should be using. So right now, if I pressed down for the character, it would register to this. And then over here is the actual frames. So this is the actual frames of the animation, which have their own settings. Ignore the blue for a moment. So over here, you can do the frame count, how long you want it to go. Interpolation just says how smoothly do you want it to move. That really only matters when you're doing like rotations or something. Then you can kind of do it. For right now, for this, where it's just frame by frame, it's fine. You can make it play a sound effect. You can play a voice. You can do display related things like changing some offsets, some centers. Center is for these, like this red dot here, not the lines, just the red dot. So you can change some of those. You can change scale. You can rotate it, so you can do like that stuff. And see, that's what that does. The display related thing, that center changes its rotation. So let's undo that. Then you have flipping, which allows you to flip it horizontal or vertical. Then you have opacity, so you can change the opacity. All these things are animation based as well. So like you can animate this per frame. And then here's the different images you can have for the frame. Since this is idle down, I want this image. And there we go. That's all I need for this one because it doesn't need any extra frames because I don't have him animating when he stands still. If you had him animating when he stands still, then you would do that. And I'll show you like how the frame things. And down here, you can actually see the timeline, which is going to show you where your frames are. Right now, it's just one frame and it only stays for one frame of animation. So it just looks like that. These are all different types of collisions and detections and stuff. So you have wall detection, self-explanatory. That's just letting the character know when he bumps into a wall. Here, I'll bring this up real quick. Let's hide some of this stuff. Okay, so the green one is wall detection. So that means he when he bumps into a wall, this is how he'll know when he bumped into a wall. And then you have collision, which is just when you collide with some things. So this, a lot of times this works for like objects and stuff. So if you're bumping into a crate or something. We'll adjust that in a moment, but let's just get to the rest of this. So now we're going to come over here. You see the add and minus. That just allows you to add a new one. This allows you to subtract the one that's selected. So what we want to do is we want to take down, and we're just going to copy and then paste because I'm literally just doing different directions. So we're going to do up, click off. Sometimes you have to click off of it and then click back on it. So for this frame, it's going to be up. Then we're going to come over here. We're going to select this one. Always save. And we're literally just going to do the same thing. Just do this a couple more times. So this one will be left. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, wait, nope. I have been dumb and forgotten to do that part. That. And then we're going to do... Not what I meant to do. Don't have great motor control over my hand right now. And then, yeah, you're going to be boop, boop. For you. And then we're going to go to you. And we're going to go to you. Now, yes, I could just keep this one and then flip it, but I already had that set up, so why not? But yeah, if you have two things that are identical when they're flipped anyway, meaning there's no visual distinction between left and right, you can just flip it. Okay, so now we have all his idle animations. And that's all we're going to do for the moment. We'll get into movement in probably the next episode. But I just wanted to show you the basics of the animation thing. For right now, we're going to go over to the scene. So click over here. And we're going to go into the scene tab down here so you can see the list of scenes. Right now, all we have is the main menu. You're going to right click. You could add a folder if you wanted, but I'm not going to because I don't need to. And we're going to click add scene. Scenes are basically what your levels are going to be. If you have like a title screen, like when the game first starts up and it has like the logo and then like start game, pause, or start game, quick game, settings, that thing. So scenes are basically just kind of like environments and stuff. Excuse me while I take a drink. And then here's where we can mess with those settings. So first, we give it a name. We're just going to call this, room 01. Scene width and scene height. These are interesting. You see it says 1:1. These are how many of the 320 by 176, your screen resolution. These are dictated by your screen resolution. How many cells, which are your screen resolution's width, do you want it to be width-wise and height-wise? So watch down here. You'll see right here what happens. If I increase that to 2, you see it added a second one. Increase that to 2. Now there's 4 because it's 2 of this dimension sets, cells of this dimension by 2 of this dimension. So it's pretty interesting. So it's just going to keep adding. Every time you increase that, it's going to keep adding. But we'll come back to this in a moment. Up here you can, let's go in order. Here's where you set what tile sets this scene will have access to. So you just hit plus, and then you have a drop-down menu. Right now we only have the 1. And then you can just hit the minus if you want to get rid of it. So you can just go, well, I don't want that one anymore. But obviously we want this. Again, notes. Just whatever notes you want to have for this thing. Then yeah, up here you have your detail settings. So you have set background. So if you have some background music, you can have it loaded here so that the second you load into the scene, it'll play music. And then you can also just set it to use the same song from the previous scene. And then of course, whether you want it to loop or not. Right here, we have the default colors. So what the color of the background, which is like this stuff, what you want that to be. I have a custom color that I use. You can see the HTML right here and also all the code. So if you want to copy that, I'm going to leave that on screen for a moment. So you can copy that if you want to make a custom color. All right, you've had enough time. So as you can see, it updated down here. And there, I only picked this color because I like this dark, rich purple, because it matches some of the other colors I use. So that's what I'm using for this. You can also set a background image. So if you want to have like one of these images just be a background, you can do that. And then here's where you would control the placement and some of the effects. So whether you have it centered, enlarged, tiling, keep aspect ratio, and enlarge, stuff like that. So you can do all that stuff, rotation, speed. You can have it scroll, which is pretty cool. Default menu screen. This is just whatever the main like HUD menu and stuff. This seems to control mostly for like, this is good to set because if you want the HUD to show, you kind of need to set that. At least that's what I found. So make sure you set that to your first menu, which is whatever this scene thing is. And then you come over here. Oh, excuse me. And you can preload. Preload just means you come here, you add other menu scenes to partially load, meaning they're going to be loaded in the background and stored in memory, but they won't show until you tell them to. Here you have scrolling speed, so you can make the screen scroll on its own. So if you have like a background or something that you want it to scroll, you can have it so it just automatically scrolls. In this case, you can just have the whole scene move on its own. So you know those like levels in Mario where the screen's just moving on its own, whether you want it to or not? Yeah, that. At least, so there's that kind of stuff, and you can check the direction and change motion, which with a switch, which is pretty nice. Here you have your accessibility area. So area accessible by the player and area accessible by the camera. This just lets you know how many of these blocks that you're making can the camera touch and can the player touch. So in this case, we want all and all. But obviously you can change those as you want, and you can also disable them. No idea why you would do any of that, at least not in the what I'm doing. So you have some screen effects. So if you want to add some cool effects like noise, mosaic, monochrome, sepia, all that kind of stuff, you got a bunch of stuff. You can even have images and stuff like that, transparencies, and you know, you can do a lot of cool stuff, which is really cool. So if you want to have some like cool screen effects, go right ahead. I believe this is like the I think this gives you a preview of it. Again, I've not had any reason to use these yet, but who knows? Maybe one day I will. And then here you have gravity and resistance and air resistance settings. So you have acceleration, which is just like how fast it builds up to its max speed kind of thing. You have gravity detect direction. So which way is gravity pointing? Right now it's pointing down. For our top down, we don't really need to care about that. But if you were doing a side-scrolling platformer, you would need to care. Air resistance factor is just only valid for physics calculations anyway, so you can kind of ignore that unless you're doing physics calculations, and then you can learn how to work that. But it's fine. Anyway, let's just click OK. I've been talking for too long. This is why my videos get so long, because I just talk and talk and talk. I hope you guys enjoy this. But as you can see, here's the scene. As you can see, we can see the different cells, which are each screen width wide and tall. Again, your navigator, so you can do this with a navigator, or you can just middle mouse button. Oh, by the way, down here, you have your zoom settings, so you can either use this to zoom, stuff like that, or you can just hold control and scroll wheel. I really hate the way they have it designed because right now it does it in specific increments. So like it goes from 100 to 200. I'm like, why can't I go 150? But that's something they can add. And then you have a bunch of different things. So highlighted item being edited. So that's nice for you to know what you're editing. This should be the settings for like walls and collisions and stuff. You can have that on and off. I usually keep it off. You have your snapping, which is just align things to grid. This is your grid itself, so you can turn it on and off. And then this is the layout navigation, which is this little guy up here. So if you don't want this thing like just here all the time, you can just get rid of it, and then you just whoop, came down here. Come back, ye. and then you can close it, and then you can just go boop and bring it back. I don't actually use it, it just gets in the way. Up here, as I said in the last video, you have your layers. So these are important because these are visual. This is the one closest to the left is going to be the topmost layer, and the one closest to the right will be the bottommost layer, and then it increments up from there. When you create a scene, it automatically gives you a camera, which is awesome. And then you have your thing down here. You can edit those settings that we had by just doing that. You just click the little cogwheel and boom, you can come up the net. And then of course you have like different settings, so you can like change display. Display just means if you click it, now it's just, you know, text rather than images. So if you don't want to preview, you can create a scene, add a folder, delete a scene. That little thing right there just means that this scene is the initial scene when you start playtesting your game, which is either this button or F5. If I were to hit F5 right now, it's going to load, and boom. It's just going to load the scene, which is the camera, which is just the background. Also, you'll notice that was like really small. If you want to make that a little bigger, you can just come to this, click enlarge display. I usually go, let's see how 4 times does. All this does is makes it bigger. So it just scales the display. So here's what it does. Makes it bigger. So now it's nice and big, so you can see things a little bit better. Again, there's nothing in this scene, so haha. Okay, so now we're going to get into actually using your tiles. It's very simple. You have your tools here. So you have your pen tool, you have your thank you, rectangle pen. I couldn't get the word to come into my brain. So this allows you to do like large sections. You have an eraser, you have a selection tool, you have a paint bucket fill, and then you have this little guy, which just wall detection. So you can turn it on in here. So if you don't want to like see all this red stuff, you can just go, oh, that's better. But this just lets you like remind yourself, okay, I know what collides and what doesn't, but we can get rid of that for now. And then, yeah, here's a preview of all your tiles. They just scroll left and right like this. And then to pick a tile, you just click a tile, pick the tool you want to be using. And then, yeah, you just do that. So you can just paint it. Everything snaps really well. And then if you want to, like, let's say you wanted to erase that, but you didn't want to have to come over here and click that. If you have like a transparent section on your screen, right click, selects whatever tile is underneath you. So if you're like underneath that one, I can select that one, or I can select nothingness, and then I can go, yay, and get rid of that, and then I can select that back. You can also do like that, come over to this tool, and then go, yay, gone. Yeah, that's what this thing does. Oh, dry mouth. All right, so let's just have a little fun. We're just going to do a quick little thing. So this is a wall, so I'm just going to do that. Yeah. And then we're going to have, so the fun thing is you just click on the tile you want to put down and then just place it. So I know what these pieces are. And the reason I'm putting them down is just so you can see them. This doesn't really matter. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But now if I zoom in, you can see why I pieced these together. So these ones are these top pieces. And also if you just select a bunch and you're in the pen tool, you can just place a chunk of them down. You have to do it from here though. So like, I can't select a bunch of these, but you can kind of see it up there. If you look up there, watch. Whee! It's me selecting a bunch of stuff, which is nice. All right, so just a quick explanation. This one is a top corner. These are your sides. I have 2 just because. These are your tops, and these are your bottoms. And then, of course, you have the different corners. And these ones here are special ones. I'll show you what they do in a moment. Let's just keep doing this real quick. We're just going to make a quick room. Just a quick little room that doesn't take too much time. I'm already going longer than I wanted to. We're already reaching the 30-minute mark, which I do apologize for these videos being long, but God, I just can't help but talk way more than I need to. And then, boom, we have a room. Obviously, there's no floor, so we're going to add a floor. First, we're going to add these. These are these are the left and right sides. They just have shadows. And that's just for an aesthetic thing. So I use these to signify that these walls have a shape and dimension. And that's why this wall's here. This is just to show you kind of in like a perspective. It's basically me faking perspective. And then this block here is the rest of the ground, which I can click and drag, and boom! If this was too boring, I can just click these and just go, boom, hey, we got that there. Boom, hey, we got that there. Boom, hey. And hey, look, now it looks less boring. And then I can just put like variations here and there. So yeah, now the floor looks a little bit less boring. And if I hit F5, By the way, F5 automatically saves, which is nice. But there we go. We have a room, which is really nice. Again, if you want to know what these ones do, I'll just get rid of like these two. I think I need to use you. So this one is an inside style corner. So these are all outside corners. These are all the inside corners. So if I want to go up, I use that for that side, that for that side. And then if I want them to come back around, I can do that. Sorry. My throat's like really dry. And then I can do, whoop, 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 whoop. Let me use the right one and not be a dumb. And then boom. And so that's how I would make like corridors. Oh, actually I would use these because walls. And that's how I would do that. So that's basically how tiles and such work. So yeah, this video has already gone on for longer than I anticipated. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you guys are okay with the longer videos, then I'll keep doing them. If you would prefer slightly shorter videos, then I'll try to see if I can shorten them and break them up a little bit more. But in the next episode, we're going to go back into our animations and we're going to actually animate the player and then make the player object and get it so you can move around. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later!